Donald Trump has never been a man of soft words. Whenever he sees something he feels is unfair, he says it loud, and he says it straight. That was exactly what happened when he spoke about Nnamdi Kanu's long detention in Nigeria. In his usual direct way, Trump made it clear that he was against the idea of keeping Kanu locked up for so long. He said that no leader, no matter how powerful, should silence a man who is only asking for freedom for his people. When Trump was asked about the matter, he did not try to avoid it. He looked at the cameras and spoke with confidence. His words were simple but strong. Nnamdi Kanu should be free. He has been in detention for too long, and it is not fair. He is not a criminal. He is a man with a voice. He wants to speak for his people. That is not a crime. Trump went further to say that what was happening to Kanu was not just about Nigeria, but about freedom in the world. He said that when one man's right to speak is taken away, then many other people will lose their voices too. He said freedom is something that cannot be denied because it is a gift from God, not from governments. He added, "You don't build peace by putting people in prison just because they speak. You build peace by listening, by talking, by finding solutions. The only thing prison does is make things worse. The more you hold him, the more the anger grows. That is not good for Nigeria. That is not good for anybody." Trump also made it clear that the situation was not hidden anymore. He said the world is watching, and that leaders cannot pretend that people do not see what is happening. He reminded everyone that social media has made the world smaller, and that the voice of the people cannot be blocked by a prison wall. According to him, if the Nigerian government thinks that keeping Kanu inside will silence him, they are wrong, because his voice has already traveled far and wide. Then he spoke about justice. Trump explained that justice is not only about courts and laws, but also about fairness. He said that many times, leaders use the law as a weapon to keep power, instead of using it to protect the people. He warned that this kind of practice will never last. The law is supposed to give people safety, not fear, he said. When leaders use the law to crush the people, then the law becomes meaningless. That is what is happening here. And it is wrong. Trump did not stop there. He connected Kanu's struggle to other freedom struggles in history. He reminded people that every great movement in the world started with one man raising his voice. He said, "Look back in history. Every time people wanted change, there was one man or woman who stood up first. At first, they were attacked. At first, they were jailed. At first, they were mocked. But later, the world saw that they were right. That is how freedom works. That is how truth works. And that is what is happening with Nnamdi Kanu." He then turned directly to the Nigerian leaders, telling them that they were making a mistake by keeping Kanu in detention. Trump said that true leadership is not about silencing people, but about finding a way to lead them even when they disagree. He added that strength is not shown by using force, but by showing wisdom. "You do not show power by locking up a man like Kanu," Trump said. "You show weakness. You show fear. If you are truly strong, you will let him speak, and you will answer him with ideas, not with chains." Trump's words were also aimed at the international community. He told other world leaders not to stay silent. He said that silence in the face of injustice is the same as support for injustice. He urged them to speak up, to stand up, and to pressure Nigeria to do the right thing. "This is not just about Nigeria," he said. "This is about the world we want to live in. Do we want a world where people are punished for speaking their minds? Or do we want a world where voices are free, and ideas can be shared without fear? The choice is clear." For Trump, the answer was simple. He called on Nigeria to release Kanu immediately and start a real conversation with the people he represents. He said that peace will never come by force, and that the longer Kanu is kept in detention, the harder it will be to heal the wounds. He ended his words with a direct call, short and powerful: "Free him. Free Nnamdi Kanu now. It is the right thing to do. It is the smart thing to do. And it is the only way forward." Trump's statement shook the room. Whether people liked him or not, his words carried weight. He has always been known for speaking without fear, and this time was no different. He had put Nnamdi Kanu's case on the table for the whole world to see. And with that, the pressure on Nigeria grew even stronger. For a long time, many people wondered why the United Kingdom, the country where Nnamdi Kanu is a citizen, had not spoken much about his detention in Nigeria. The silence troubled his supporters, and many accused the British government of doing nothing while Kanu suffered in custody. When Prime Minister Keir Starmer finally addressed the matter, he did not shy away. He gave a clear explanation, in words that were calm but also serious. Starmer began by saying that the British government had never forgotten Nnamdi Kanu. He explained that just because leaders are quiet does not mean they are inactive. According to him, diplomacy is not about loud speeches every time there is a problem. Instead, diplomacy often requires patience, quiet talks, and careful steps. We are very aware of Mr. Kanu's case, he said firmly. We have always been following it. But as Prime Minister, I must tell you the truth. Not everything can be shouted out in public. Some matters need careful handling, and this is one of them. He went further to explain why the UK had appeared slow to act. He said that Nigeria is a sovereign nation, and Britain cannot simply impose its will on another independent country. Nigeria has its own laws, its own courts, and its own processes, Starmer explained. As the government of the United Kingdom, we must respect that. If we rush in with pressure in the wrong way, it could backfire. It could make things worse for Mr. Kanu instead of better. For many, this was the first time a British leader had put the matter so plainly. Starmer reminded everyone that Britain had a long history with Nigeria, and that the relationship between both nations was very sensitive. He explained that any open confrontation could damage ties and could even make Nigerian leaders more stubborn on Kanu's case. He said, "I know people want us to shout. But if shouting does not bring results, then it is just noise. We must act in a way that helps Mr. Kanu, not in a way that closes doors." The Prime Minister then turned to the responsibility of his government. He admitted that as a British citizen, Kanu deserved protection and support. "It is our duty to care for the rights of every citizen, whether here at home or abroad," he said. "We do not pick and choose. We stand for their welfare, and we work to ensure they are treated fairly. Mr. Kanu is no exception. He is one of ours, and we will not leave him behind." But Starmer stressed that there were rules to follow. He said Britain cannot simply walk into Nigeria and demand freedom without going through diplomatic channels. He compared it to dealing with a delicate case in court. If one wrong step is taken, the whole case could collapse. He said, "When you are fighting for someone's life and freedom, you must be wise. You must play the long game. This is not about scoring quick points. This is about winning the outcome. That outcome is Mr. Kanu's release, and we will keep working until we achieve it." Starmer also explained that silence does not mean weakness. In his words, there are times when quiet talks behind closed doors achieve more than loud speeches in front of cameras. He said the UK government had been engaging with Nigerian authorities in private, pressing them on human rights and fair treatment. "You may not see it every day in the news, but the work is going on," he assured. "And we will continue to raise the matter at every level until justice is done." Then the Prime Minister addressed the larger issue, why Nnamdi Kanu's case matters. He said this was not just about one man, but about the principle of rights and justice. He said that when a citizen is treated unfairly, it reflects on the entire system. Mr. Kanu's case is about fairness, he explained. It is about the right to speak, the right to be heard, and the right not to be punished simply for having an opinion. These are values we in the United Kingdom hold dear, and we will not abandon them. He also pointed out that Britain must act responsibly, because the world is watching. If the UK handled the matter recklessly, it would send the wrong message to other countries. He said the right approach was to stand firm but respectful, strong but measured. "We must show the world that we defend human rights with dignity, not with arrogance," he said. "That is what sets us apart. That is what gives our voice weight." Starmer did not make promises of sudden miracles. Instead, he spoke with honesty. He admitted that progress might take time, but he assured Kanu's supporters that the government was committed to seeing the case through. "I will not tell you that it will all be solved tomorrow," he said. "But I can tell you this, we are engaged, we are serious, and we will not stop pressing until there is justice." In closing, Starmer made a personal note. He said he understood the pain of Kanu's supporters and the frustration they felt. He acknowledged that waiting is difficult, especially when a life is at stake. "I hear the voices of those who are calling for action," he said. "I know their passion, and I respect it. But as Prime Minister, I must lead with wisdom, not with impulse. We will do what is right, and we will do it in a way that brings results. That is my promise." With those words, Starmer gave clarity to a question that had troubled many for months. The UK's silence was not abandonment, but strategy. And though he admitted that the path was not easy, he made it clear that Britain's responsibility to Nnamdi Kanu was real and active. For his supporters, it was a moment of reassurance. Their fight had not been ignored, and their leader in London was listening. When Donald Trump and Keir Starmer spoke out about Nnamdi Kanu, the world began to listen more closely. Their voices came from very different backgrounds, but on this issue, they stood on the same ground. Trump was bold and fiery, while Starmer was calm and measured. Yet both agreed on one central truth: it was time for freedom. For Kanu supporters, these words carried weight. They had been shouting for years, demanding his release, but their voices often felt ignored by those in power. Now, two powerful figures from two of the world's most influential nations had spoken directly. This was not just a whisper from the people anymore. It was a message echoed at the highest levels. Trump's words were urgent. He demanded that Kanu be released without delay. He described the detention as unfair, dangerous, and harmful to peace. For Trump, waiting was not an option. His voice was sharp, pushing Nigeria's leaders to act quickly. He wanted action, not excuses. His message was simple: the longer Kanu is held, the deeper the wound grows. On the other hand, Keir Starmer's words gave a different kind of strength. He admitted that progress takes time, but he also promised that the UK would not stay silent. He assured the world that Britain was not ignoring Kanu, but rather working carefully to secure his freedom. He made it clear that the government was not abandoning him, and that justice for one of their citizens was a duty that could not be avoided. This combination of voices created something powerful. Trump's urgency brought fire to the issue, and Starmer's steady words brought credibility and balance. Together, they showed that freedom for Nnamdi Kanu was not just a dream for a small group of supporters but a matter of international concern. Around the world, human rights groups took notice. They saw that if two leaders from opposite sides of the political spectrum could agree, then the issue was serious. Trump, known for his blunt and uncompromising style, and Starmer, known for his cautious and thoughtful approach, rarely agreed on anything. Yet here they were, both calling for the same thing: freedom. The message to Nigeria was strong. The government could no longer claim that the matter was only local. It was now global. Leaders in Washington and London were watching. Citizens across continents were paying attention. And with every passing day, the pressure grew heavier. For Nnamdi Kanu himself, though he was behind bars, this new wave of support meant hope. It meant that his name was not forgotten. It meant that his struggle was not hidden. When powerful men with global platforms speak your name, the silence around you begins to break. His case was no longer buried in paperwork or trapped inside courtroom walls. It was alive, and it was being carried across the world. Trump framed the issue as a fight for liberty, saying that no man should be caged for using his voice. Starmer framed it as a matter of justice, saying that a British citizen must not be treated unfairly abroad. Both paths led to the same point: keeping Kanu in detention was wrong, and his release was the only acceptable solution. Supporters in Nigeria felt new energy. For years, they had marched, protested, and spoken out, often at great risk to themselves. Now they felt that the world was finally echoing their cries. They could point to Trump's words, they could quote Starmer's explanation, and they could say to their government, "Look, the world is watching. This cannot continue." The call for freedom became louder than before. It was not only about releasing one man, but about what his case represented. To many, Kanu symbolized the right to self-expression, the right to question authority, and the right to demand justice without fear. His continued detention became a warning sign of what happens when governments choose force over dialogue. In many ways, the voices of Trump and Starmer also sent a message to the Nigerian people themselves. They showed that even when leaders try to silence a man, the truth about him cannot be buried. They showed that a cause rooted in justice can survive beyond borders, beyond prisons, and beyond silence. The call for freedom was no longer a single cry from a corner of Nigeria. It had become a demand that crossed oceans. From America came the blunt demand, release him now. From Britain came the steady assurance, we will not leave him behind. Together, those messages built a bridge of hope. Yet the chapter was not only about pressure on Nigeria. It was also a reminder to the world about the value of freedom. Trump and Starmer's words carried the lesson that rights cannot be chosen by governments but belong to all people. They reminded us that leaders come and go, but freedom is eternal. They reminded us that silencing one man never ends the struggle, it only makes the voice stronger. The final call was clear. The detention had gone on too long. The excuses had run out. The time for delay was over. For peace, for justice, and for the dignity of human rights, Nnamdi Kanu must be free. In the end, what began as two speeches became a joint message. One man spoke with urgency, the other with patience. One demanded action now, the other promised action through process. Together, they drew the same conclusion: freedom is the only way forward. And so, the chapter closed not with silence, but with a call that echoed louder than before. A call that traveled beyond borders, beyond politics, and beyond detention walls. A call that said, in simple but unshakable words, release him. Let freedom speak.